Pledge of Allegiance and then follow, remain standing for a moment of silence, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. May we have a roll call, please, Dr. Cole?
Yes, Ms. Lauer. Present. Dr. Powers.
Present.
Ms. Scott.
Present.
Mrs. Wise.
Present.
Mr. Irwin.
Present.
Mrs. Killian.
Present.
Mrs. Lohr.
Present. Thank you again for this evening to attend our public hearing on the 2023 budget. Do I have a motion to open the meeting?
I'll make that motion to open meeting.
Second. We have a motion and a second to open this evening's public hearing on the 2023 budget. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, and abstain. This meeting is now open. We have the proposed 2023 budget by Ms. Cindy Hart.
President Killian, Superintendent Hayward, and members of the school Board of Trustees, before we move into the public comment portion of this evening's meeting, I'd like to take a few minutes to review the budget books we've provided today. Budget books are also available for audience members if they would like to take one. The budget book will also be loaded up to the website tomorrow. The 2023 budget is organized in 3 sections. Section 1 contains the budget forms as required by the Department of Local Government Finance. Section 2 is the Capital Projects Fund Plan, and Section 3 is the Bus Replacement Plan. The first 2 documents within Section 1 are Form 3, the notice to taxpayers of tonight's public hearing, which was advertised on Gateway as required on September 13th. And Form 4, the resolution for appropriations and tax rates that we will be bringing forward on October 10th for adoption. As shown on Form 4, we will ask for you to adopt budgets for all 5 funds, including this book, with levy approval requested on 3 funds: referendum, debt service, and operations fund. Following those 2 forms, you will see the required budget forms grouped by fund for the education, operations, debt service, rainy day, and referendum funds. Each fund section includes the current year financial worksheet, the document that shows 2022 collection and expenditure data, Form 1 that lists the appropriation classifications or the proposed budget for 2023, Form 2 are estimated miscellaneous revenue from sources of revenue other than a tax levy, and finally, Form 4B, the budget estimate showing the calculation of budget, levy, and estimated tax rate for each fund. Within the documents for the debt service, you will also see the debt service worksheet, which lists all debt by type and supports the budget figure for 2023. Any questions? As stated at our last meeting, we developed a 2022 budget using a lower than anticipated assessed value, which inflates the proposed tax rates shown on Forms 4 and 4B. Also keep in mind that the budgets and levies will be adjusted down by the DLGF during the budget review process as they update our estimated figures and apply any statutory tax rate or levy limitations. Section 2 is the Capital Projects Fund Plan and is a 3-year look at projected capital expenditures. The first year of the plan drives the CPF capital expenditures budgeted within the operations fund. The CPF plan includes a page for all schools and facilities operated by the corporation, with the majority of expenditures reflected under the administration and general services building pages. Please note that expenditures listed under each of these facilities are are not indicative of projects or equipment we plan to spend specifically for those buildings, but rather for corporation-wide needs, under the direction of the departments housed at those administrative sites. Finally, the last section of this book includes a 5-year bus replacement plan. Including in the 2023 budget is the planned replacement of 17 buses at a cost not to exceed $2.4 million. With that said, President Killian, I would now be appropriate to open the floor for citizen comments regarding the 2023 budget.
Thank you, Mrs. Beeman. At this time, do we have comments from the audience on our 2023 proposed budget? And if so, if you have not signed up yet, we would need you to do so after the comment, so you have your contact information to answer questions at a later time. Okay. Do we have comments on the proposed budget from the board? Do we need to go ahead and take a motion to approve this reading? Open for comment. Do I have a motion to approve this reading of the proposed 2023 budget?
I move to approve the reading of the budget.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. We are open for comment or questions from the board.
Thank you for having it online tomorrow. We'd like to have that available to the public and to have it available to anyone who wants a copy of that. There are always questions and saying it's not available when it always has been and it always will be. So thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to put this book together for us. I know it's a very time-consuming task, not necessarily required, but much appreciated, and it makes things easier for us to understand. And those who view it online, I'm sure it'll be easier for them to understand as well. So we greatly appreciate that.
We worked all afternoon on that one.
Could you help me understand, so, I understand the process that we have to submit our budget to the state government. The state government has to approve it before we can implement it. So if the state government decides that we've done something that they don't like, what would that look like?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the process goes, we submit after October, you approve the budget, then we have several days to upload it to Gateway. And then after every governmental entity in Vigo County, they assess, what our budget's gonna be, they take it down. And in December, we'll get a 1782 notice in the mail to tell us what our budget is, and then we have 10 days to appeal it or.
And then in that time period, they actually update our estimates with actual data. The budget's actually worked in December, so by that time, a lot more things have been finalized, like ADM submissions, all those types of things are already worked through. So they basically nail down our revenue and expenditure data.
Great, so all those forms are available for taxpayers to look at, and we have that for them. Okay, I appreciate that, thank you so much.
Okay, you will. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Last year at budget time, Mrs. Wilson presented on how we develop our budget. She did a PowerPoint. And it's a really good tool even for me in my professional career as an accounting employee to utilize in budget development. But it's very informational and maybe it might be helpful if she printed that back out again.
Yeah, those are online, aren't they, on our YouTube channel? Those are saved, those presentations, right? Yes? Yeah. Great. Good point, thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the board? We have a motion and a second to approve this reading of the budget. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign, and abstain. Thank you for that. On the public hearing, we do need a motion to close the public hearing.
I make the motion to close the public hearing and at the same time open our regular business meeting.
I will second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Abstain. This meeting is adjourned as we open our regular business meeting for this evening. Our vision and mission statement. Our vision is working together with our community. We inspire our students to discover their talents and rise to their greatest potential. Our mission is building on the strengths of our diverse community. We create an engaging, comprehensive educational environment that supports the growth of lifelong learners. We have some guests in the audience. It's always great to see students out there. We're going to open with presentations from our student leaders from Terre Haute North, Terre Haute South, and West Vigo High School. We have Terre Haute North first on the, oh, do you?
I'll go ahead and just introduce them real quick unless you'd like to go ahead. Okay.
Thank you, Mrs.
So, Superintendent Hayward, President Killian, members of the board, we are so excited to have our students here tonight, and I think they do exemplify what is your vision. So I'm excited to introduce them for you tonight, and we will start with Terre Haute North Dean, Mr. Chris Barrett. He'll come up and introduce his student with him tonight.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to introduce you to Rebecca Gore. She is an exceptional honor roll student at Terre Haute North. She participates in soccer and basketball, as well as on our athletic directors council, student council, as well as Dr. Hayworth's leadership council. So she participates in many activities. She's an outstanding young lady, and here to present for us is Rebecca.
Good evening, Superintendent Hayworth, President Killian, and members of the board. I'm Rebecca Gore, a junior at Terre Haute North High School. Thank you for allowing me to share about current and future events at Terre Haute North. We are celebrating homecoming this week. Each day we have different dress-up themes at school. Today was middle school day, so students and staff wore shirts representing their middle school or dressed how they did in middle school. This evening is Queen Lily Jensen's coronation. Our week will wrap up with a football game on Friday night against Southport. At North, one of the things we are most proud of this school year is all the fundraising we have done for Riley's Children's Hospital. At football, volleyball, and soccer games, red buckets have been passed around through the stands collecting donations for Riley. We raised a total of $1,121.47 with these red buckets. We also had a red-out theme for the North-South volleyball game, where t-shirts were sold with all profits going to Riley. The Dance Marathon Committee hosted a car wash this past Saturday with all proceeds going to Riley as well. Our boys basketball team participated in the Diversity Walk on Saturday, August 27th in downtown Terre Haute. The Diversity Walk was created to bring a diverse group of people together to break down barriers, build relationships, and show what is possible when a community is welcoming to all. They also worked at a cross-country meet at Laverne Gibson, along with our Interact Club. Our boys and girls soccer teams are very involved in this program called Top Soccer. Together they are buddies to athletes with special needs, helping them learn and play the game of soccer. The Athletic Leadership Council at Terre Haute North participated in an IHSAA conference on September 13th at Evansville North High School, practicing leadership skills and learning more about IHSAA sports so that they can use these skills in upcoming sports seasons. Our student council will be hosting a blood drive in late October. They also have created a stronger social media presence this school year with a TikTok account that puts out public service announcements for the student body at North regarding upcoming events. And lastly, our student leadership group, who participated in the conference with Superintendent Hayworth, is planning a food drive coming up in the holiday season as well. Thank you for allowing me to share a few highlights from our school year so far.
Thank you, Rebecca. That was wonderful. And so up next, we have Terre Haute South, and here to present is Dr. Tammy Rochendale.
Well, thank you for allowing us to be with you this evening and tout about a few of the cool things going on at Terre Haute South. And I'm honored to be here this evening with Mr. Timothy Smith, who is our senior class president, active member of Tribe, and also on the superintendent's leadership committee. So it is my honor to present to you Timothy Smith.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for having me. My name is Timothy Smith, and I'm the senior class president and representative tonight for Terre Haute South. After our 6 weeks since the beginning of the school year, I'm pleased to say that we are on track to have one of our best years yet at South. Being a leader in my school, the success that this school year will uphold is beyond important to me and the other administrators and staff members in our building. I can truly say that I take pride in helping make South a better place to be and to see the same passion and drive in our teachers as well. After the disappointing news of the vote on the school referendum, many believed that it would serve as a blow to our morale, but I've seen great strides in effort to make do with what we have and take pride in our building. Over the summer, South High School hosted 2 campus cleanup days, and the show-off from our students was amazing. We had more than 30 student volunteers and parents, along with our class Senate representatives, commit part of their mornings to help tackle tasks such as picking up trash, laying down new rock, mulching, painting, and much more. Also, many exemplary students have come forward this school year through volunteering to clean up our own bleachers when our fans sometimes forget to do so at sporting events, as well as raising money for Raleigh Children's Hospital and the Humane Society at halftime. This year, South wants to top the impact on our community that we had last year of accomplishing over 40,000 community service hours amongst our 3 high schools. Small steps such as the campus cleanup days show our commitment to the betterment of our schools and community. Having strong leaders amongst our student body is also a key way to reach these goals. Through our DECA program, we have many passionate students such as myself and a majority of South Senate members who will be doing community outreach projects this school year, such as community gardens, helping our new foreign exchange and refugee students get more acquainted with our school, and foster care awareness. Our Key Club and NHS group also work tirelessly to find volunteer opportunities that will have a positive impact in our community. Though most of this happens outside of school hours, it is important to focus on some priority on what happens during our school hours as well. Academics is #1 at South, and our staff is doing an amazing job at keeping kids focused and committed to their schoolwork, while also serving as support to students that may be struggling. South is on track to have more AP students this school year than years prior, and our administrators are going farther than ever to foster these students' commitment to learning, along with making sure that we increase our dual credit involvement so students at South will leave with as much credit as possible to give them head starts on their future. While the success and achievement of students is the focus of our school, it is also vital to recognize those within our school that make everything possible. This year at our home football games, we have been highlighting our Teachers of the Week, and we plan on doing more great things like higher recognition during Teacher Appreciation Week and small gifts to our beyond deserving staff members. It is important to understand that our teachers are some of the students' first friends at South, and that when they come to work feeling appreciated and knowing that they make a difference in students' lives, they bring more enthusiasm and passion to their classrooms, which creates positivity for everyone around them. As we get further in the school year, many more activities and events are in store, and our planners and organizers have been doing a great job to get word out so that everyone is up to date with what is going on. New social media pages in collaboration with our student body account, The Tribe, and separate class pages get crucial information out to no matter who you are. And even if you aren't engaged in social media, our school news channel, SBTV, serves as a fun and engaging way to highlight what's going on at South. Every year, the highlight for almost all students is our homecoming week, which we host activities every night such as Power Puff, class kickball, pep rallies, relay races, and hallway decorations. Due to the attraction that brings from our student body, this year we will have 2-week-long homecoming to get students excited for everything that we will be doing leading up to our homecoming football game. And to build on everything that we will be doing this year, we also plan to bring back past ideas that have been a hit amongst everyone, including the Review and Brave Stock, where students will have the opportunity to showcase their talents and interact with other students. This year at South, we are stressing the importance of involvement and inclusiveness to set the tone for each year after. Many in the community often overlook the hard work that is put in to have a functioning school, let alone a whole school corporation. So I thank Dr. Hayworth and his team, along with everyone here that's helped make the start of this school year possible, and I hope that we can keep building on what we plan to accomplish. This summer, when I came to the leadership conference that was put on by everyone downtown, it showed me the dedication that you have to our schools, and by inviting myself and other student leaders here tonight, it reflects on your commitment to the students and how much you care about our success. Thank you.
Thank you, Timothy and Dr. Rochendale. Another reason why we are proud of our school corporation. And so lastly, we have Westfield High School, and Mr. Ryan Easton is here to introduce his team. So Mr. Ryan Easton, principal of Westfield.
Thank you for having us, everyone. I didn't trust just one, so I had to bring 4. You guys want to come on up? We've got Jack Newport, son of Carrie Newport. Cassie Rowe, he's a sophomore. We've got Van Rickert, sophomore, Cassie Rouse, junior, and Preston Montgomery, senior.
you. We thank the school board for letting us be here with you guys tonight. I won't keep you here long, but we made a little PowerPoint. I wanted to make sure you guys could see it. So I won't keep you here long, so we'll get started. So at West Vigo, homecoming week is next week. Our class senates are working hard on getting our hallways decorated. Each class picks out a theme, and each class will execute that starting next week. We also have tailgate games hosted by Spark, I believe, and our homecoming coronation is next Tuesday. Our homecoming parade will be next Wednesday. Powder Puff football will also be next Wednesday, with the homecoming football game next Friday. Anything else? Okay. Wabashiki Day was this past Saturday with Emily's Walk, sponsored by NHS, Student Council, the Community Service Class, and other clubs and sports were volunteering. We also did the McNichols Trail Run 10K with Emily's Walk, running race in West Terre Haute, consisting of a kids run and fun run, where multiple of our service organizations volunteered to get to work on their community service hours this year. West Vigo hosted a college and career fair that included Terre Haute, North Vigo, South Vermilion, Booker T, Terre Haute South, and more. We had a very big turnout with our different trade schools and colleges around the state. DECA provided coffee, and Chick-fil-A was provided for the college and trade schools. And I've included some pictures down below with what happened. In October, Safe Trick-or-Treating will be ran by the Student Council with a community dinner and NHS haunted house the same evening. We plan to feed over 20 families throughout our new West Vigo food pantry. Bike Talk series will begin, where leaders from our community will speak in educational speeches to our upperclassmen before they are ready to leave and venture off into the world. And FFA is planning on running a community garden and running a market from the food it produces. Taste of West Terre Haute. Several establishments around West Vigo have agreed to participate once more in our Taste of West Terre Haute event in order to highlight our local businesses, such as the Maxwell Coffee Company, Grandma Vera's Cafe and Bakery, Sycamore Winery, and the Wabashiki Fish and Wildlife Organization. With that is also sponsored by our chapter of the Superintendent's Advisory Council. And that's it. We have a lot more ideas upcoming, and we thank you guys for letting us be here with you guys tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Easton and your team, and I think these students really do exemplify our vision and they make us proud every day, so thank you for that. We'll move on.
If I could just comment real quick, I thought we had a very impactful summer, which a part of that was bringing students that you just saw, plus many more of their classmates, to a 3-day event. And we were excited about the commitment shown last year. I'm very, very optimistic that this year will surpass many of those things that we were able to do last year. And just proud of our students. It's not easy to get up to that microphone and speak, and they did a great job. So let's give them another round of applause.
I would just have one request, if the student leadership groups would just, every once in a while, maybe send the board a reminder or an invite of things you think you would like for us to show up and be supportive of. I think that'd be beneficial for us, as well as to showcase the work you are doing in your schools. We will move on to our consent agenda.
I move approval of the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and an approval for our consent agenda. Any questions or comments from the board? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, and abstain. Thank you. Next, we have our August accounts payable docket and finance report from Mrs. Donna Wilson.
President Killian, Dr. Hayworth, members of the Board of School Trustees. Last Thursday evening, we met again with the Finance Committee of the board. And as you know, there are 3 representatives from the board that meet monthly, the Thursday before we present an accounts payable docket for your review, to review all the claims for that month. And I've been asked this evening to go over some of those items that were pulled. However, the board was sent an email of all claims pulled, so I'll just go over briefly some of those claims for you this evening. One claim that was pulled for review was Advanced Turf Solutions for $1,401. That was for Ranger Pro herbicide for use on our athletic fields. As you know, all our athletic fields are natural grass, so that is used by our facilities department in order to provide treatment for those facilities. ATC Group SVC LLC Depository, we have some very unusual remit dues. That check was for $15,635.70. That was to Atlas Technical Services, and that was in connection with borings done on the concrete footers for the construction, the new construction at Otter Creek Middle School. Routinely, we do boring testing when there's ever construction completed. Daymar Services, $40,811. Daymar is a residential treatment facility, and that was for treatment services for 2 students for the month. FSSA Financial Management, $33,760.32. The state double distributed to the school corporation a payment for the Child Care and Developmental Fund. It's a grant through the state, CCDF funds. They acknowledged that they sent us too much money. Those funds were deposited into our bank account, so we had to issue a check to refund the state for that double payment. Harsha Behavioral Center, $3,076.25 was from the grant Project Aware for counseling services for mental health for the month. Heartland Payment Systems, $27,700 is the annual software system maintenance program for school lunch. And that system provides the point of sale system, menu tracking, inventory, and ordering, and is also the application support for free and reduced application processing. Indiana Developmental Training Center, $24,645. That was a 31-day residential placement. Pyramid School Products, $10,136. People were very intrigued by that. It was 4,300 packages of construction paper that we had been waiting on to restock our warehouse. That was ordered back in the spring, and we just now received it. And finally, Revolutions Materials, which was formerly JADCOR, the purchase of 856 cases of trash bags of various sizes for $16,588.48.
I'd like to move approval of the accounts payable docket as presented.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve the accounts payable docket. Are there any questions or comments from the board?
Thank you, Mrs. Wilson, for doing that for us. I just want to reiterate, again, the Finance Committee is one of the public committees that we have, and a public notice goes out, and people can come and attend that and witness our deliberations and highlight that, see what questions we're asking. The things that we asked Mrs. Wilson to talk about tonight were the things that we asked her about during that meeting. And it's a really important way for us to be accountable and provide some transparency. So I appreciate that very, very much, that you took the time to talk us through that tonight.
Mrs. Lohr, also as part of that meeting, we briefly discussed this finance report. This finance report, I believe, has been in your board packet for several months, but we were going to give just a very brief overview of this report for you this evening. That's the financial status report, and I think I left some extra copies at the front desk, but we routinely put together this report now, and it reflects the tax-supported funds and where we stand as far as budgeted receipts and expenditures for this time through the year. So this report was as of August 31st, which is 66% through the year, and I'm happy to report that we have spent under 66% of all our budgets of our tax-supported funds. 58.5% of education, just under 60% for operations, and 50% for the referendum fund. It's very important to note that on the revenue side, most of these funds, education fund is supported by monthly distributions from the state. However, debt service operations and referendum, we receive our funding in 2 installments, one in June after the May collection of taxes, and one in December following November collection of taxes. You can see in debt service, we received almost 58% of our allocation of our anticipated revenue this year. So we are operating well within budget and where we anticipated being as far as revenue goes. The figures on this then foot over to other reports that are included in your board packet, such as the encumbrance report and the monthly financial statement. So with that,
And we did see where all the numbers matched, and we saw all of that line up during the committee meeting as well. Thank you.
So I do have a question for the committee members. I know what the answer was when I was on the committee in the past, but I'm just curious, how well attended is the public finance committee meeting?
0.
Well, by members, very well.
Yeah, no, I
By the public,
The
not.
3 members are always there, but
And sometimes an alternate. And
public-
sometimes an
Sometimes
alternate.
an alternate, but the public has not shown up.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Wilson. We had a motion.
We need a vote.
Did we vote on that motion?
We need to.
Yeah. We do have a motion and a second to approve the August accounts payable docket. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, and abstain. Thank you. Next, we have donations. Mrs. Donna Wilson.
President Killian, Dr. Hayward, the members of the board. Tonight, we have in your board packet 3 donations that we are requesting your approval for. 2 for Wabash to fund their backpack program, and 1 for Rio Grande Elementary School to be used at the principal's discretion for school needs. We'd appreciate approval of these donations.
I'll make a motion to approve these donations.
I'll second with gratitude.
We have a motion and a second to approve the donations. Are there any questions or comments from the board? I think we all agree with Mrs. Lauer that it is with gratitude. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Abstain. Thank you. We move on to our new business, the personnel report and professional leave request. Mr. Michael Cox.
President Killian, Superintendent Hayward, members of the Board of Trustees, administration seeks approval of personnel and professional leave report as presented this evening.
I move to approve the personnel report and professional leave requests.
I second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the personnel report, professional leave request. Are there any comments or questions from the board? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign, and abstain. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have our insurance recommendation for the health and dental portion. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Mr. Cox.
President Killian, Superintendent Hayward, members of the Board of Trustees, I have this evening with me Diane Tenchanel of Marty Sutton, Associates in the Division of Brown & Brown, to provide a report to you this evening for health and dental.
Good evening, President Killian, Dr. Hayward, members of the board. I'm super glad I don't have to follow the students, although Mrs. Wilson did a fabulous job. I'm glad I don't have to follow the students. A fabulous job by the students as well. Pleasure to be here. So I'm just going to talk to you quickly, or as quickly as I possibly can, about your insurance plan, about what we're considering recommending to you for the 2023 health plan year. You were presented a packet of information. I'm just going to briefly go over that. You do have 3 plan choices available to you currently through Anthem as your carrier. Those 3 plan choices, we're not recommending any plan changes as far as related to cost shares, meaning deductibles and out-of-pockets. No cost share changes there from that perspective. You have, again, 3 plans available to you. All 3 plans are very well spread apart, meaning you have good differences between the plans to give your membership a good opportunity to make a good decision on what works best for them and their family. And you actually have really good enrollment in all 3 plans, so there's no need to make any changes from that perspective. But when we did this year, we did market your plan, meaning that we went back to Anthem as the incumbent and said we are going to the market to see what else is out there for us to take a look at. We went to United Healthcare, which is Anthem and United Healthcare are really the only 2 big box carriers out there for us to look at here in the state of Indiana. There are some smaller TPAs, third-party administrators, they're available, but with a group your size, it's difficult to use a third-party administrator with your dollar spend because the discounts aren't quite as good. And discounts are important when you're self-funding your medical claim. With that, because of your size, we're also able to a la carte a few carriers, meaning that we're looking at stop-loss carriers to take the risk on your plan, and we're also looking at other pharmacy benefit managers to manage your pharmacy benefits as well. With all of those changes, all of those reviews, it came back from an overview of a dollar spend. Currently, you're spending about $17.4, $17.5 million in healthcare costs today. With the Anthem renewal, it came out to be 18.7, which is a 7.46% increase. Going to United Healthcare, and United Healthcare carving out the pharmacy through a company called RX Benefits, which would be through CVS Caremark, doing that separately, it actually came out to $17.8 million. So currently 17.43, going to 17.8 is a 2% difference. So with that information, we would be recommending that you would make that switch to United Healthcare with a 2% increase in your healthcare premiums. We were very happy overall with the results that we received from both Anthem and United Healthcare. United Healthcare's network is just as large, if not larger than Anthem. We did do a disruption report to see what does it look like, to see if for your membership, if they would change carriers, because possible doctors are different, and it was over 99% of your current claims would have processed in network with United Healthcare as well. So we're very happy with that transition of that. On the other side, we looked at your dental benefits as well. Your dental benefits through HRI. We are recommending that you remain with HRI due to your local networks, the happiness of your membership within the HRI dental network with a 3% increase. We go back just a second. The trend today in today's market for healthcare, trend in healthcare today actually has gone down a little bit on the medical side, which is a little bit ironic, knowing how things are running out in the market, but it's a trend is about 8%, pharmacy trend is about 13%. And the fact that we're able to come to you tonight with the transition to United Healthcare at a 2% increase, we're fairly pleased with. Obviously, our goal is always to not increase, but unfortunately, the cost of healthcare continues to rise. The trend on a dental side is about 8%, and we're able to get a 3% with HRI, so we were pleased with that as well. Welcome. Any thoughts and questions from anybody?
I have a question, but do we need a motion first?
Yes.
I move to approve as presented.
I'll second that.
So my question is with the disruption report, because that's the question employees are gonna have is, can I still go to my same doctor? And you said over 99%. Is there a way with that report that you've run to pull the employee's name and notify them and say, hey, this claim would have been denied under the new plan? And to, because if it's a one-time thing, obviously it doesn't matter to them, but if it's a doctor they see all the time, is there a way to notify them ahead of time so that they can plan ahead?
There is, and we'll be happy to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Is there an open enrollment period if you want to switch from the one plan to the other, and when is that?
There is an open enrollment period to make that switch. You do use a platform through Steel Benefits to do that online. Sam, I'm not sure what your dates are.
November 15th through the 11th.
So November 15th through the 23rd. So November 15th through the 23rd is our actual online open enrollment. And this year, just because I remember Sam saying it, everybody must go out and elect this year. So it will be, everybody will be aware because they must elect in order to have insurance.
Mr. Cox, could you remind us how these these recommendations for insurance are made and who sits on that committee and how we get that?
That information is given to groups, each of the employee groups, secretaries, admin, clerical, teachers, and custodians all sit on this committee. in this group, and then we talk about the plans and so forth. Take it back to the membership.
Okay, and we had a unanimous recommendation for this?
Yes.
Thank you.
The open enrollment is November 15th. We will have to start after, if this were to go through, it gives us time to push out information to our employee groups.
And I think it's going to be important to notify any employees about claims that wouldn't have been fulfilled, so that way they have time to plan ahead.
That is correct.
I think that's a good idea. It shows good faith that we saw this was an issue, because that's the last thing somebody wants to do is go to a doctor's appointment. Usually doctor's appointments are pretty important. You don't want to see that where you get there and you're denied service or given a hefty bill or something like that. So if that's a service we could provide, I think that's greatly needed.
Just one more time, that open enrollment is November 15th through the 23rd.
That is correct, and everybody will need to comply with that open enrollment. And we will push out that information through our office, Samantha Harris's office, and through the principals. I know some individuals do not like doing those type of things. They may not be on our insurance. I still have to have a yes or a no to them.
We have a motion and a second to approve the insurance recommendation. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, and abstain. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have the strategic plan and business office update. Mrs. Donna Wilson.
President Killian, Superintendent Hayworth, and members of the Board of School Trustees. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to spotlight the business office this evening. The business office of the school corporation is responsible for payroll, purchasing, the textbook rental system, commercial insurance, workers' compensation programming, extracurricular accounting support, budgeting, and accounting. Our department functions as a team, sharing resources when possible and segregating functions as required to support strong internal controls. As we discuss each function, I'd like to introduce my team, and please feel free to ask any questions throughout the presentation. Might be helpful if I just introduce my management team that's here with me this evening. I have Cindy Dehart, we all know, Deputy Treasurer, Kathy Lady, Purchasing Manager, Marcy Bedford, Payroll Manager, and Brandy Wolfley, my Business Office Specialist. We'll start tonight with payroll. Marcy Bedford is our payroll manager. In 2021, W-2s were issued to 2,693 full and part-time employees with wages in excess of $87 million reported. Marcy, along with Jamie Pruitt and Yvonne Johnson, work with building payroll clerks to verify and document attendance for 26 biweekly pays, implementing the criteria established in 14 employee group contracts and handbooks. Marcy is responsible for all required payroll reporting, including submission of the 100R, the Employee Compensation Report, which appears on Gateway, state and federal payroll tax reports, and the remittance of all withholdings, including retirement, garnishments, taxes, etc. Marcy and her staff are dedicated, and that was most evident during the COVID shutdown, as they kept working to ensure that everyone on our staff was paid every 2 weeks during a very scary time. Kathy Lady is responsible for all corporation purchasing, implementing board policies related to purchasing and bid law. And she oversees the operation of the corporation warehouse and stockroom delivery system. The corporation budgets are divided by schools and administrative departments, and Kathy and her assistant Susan Byerly manage the requisition purchase order system, as well as the warehouse inventory system, while monitoring budgets and purchasing best practices. Kathy also works with the curriculum team to facilitate purchasing and delivery of textbooks and calculates the textbook rental fees each year. She is also responsible for the collection of unpaid textbook accounts. Kathy oversees the district's textbook depository located at our General Services facility and works there with Idra Wilson to make sure adequate book inventories are maintained and that textbooks are properly issued to staff and students. Brandy Woofley, Business Office Specialist, manages our property, casualty, and workers' compensation insurance programs. Brandy works with our agent, carriers, staff, and legal counsel on the submission of claims data, litigation, and loss mitigation. She works closely with HR, coordinating leave benefits with carriers in our payroll department, and building principles on return to work protocol for staff. Recently, Brandy has been instrumental in the creation of a new building use application process and has worked with our insurance carriers to develop specific insurance requirements that entities must follow in order to offer liability protections for the school corporation. To provide more cross-training in our department, Brandy has become more involved with payroll because in her role as our workers' comp coordinator, she was very familiar with payroll, and this year has provided Marcy backup when needed. In addition to her responsibilities as corporation bookkeeper, Diane Hain is also responsible for the training and support of our corporation extracurricular treasures. For those of you not aware, schools are allowed to raise funds for use outside of the classroom. These funds are administered at the school level by a building level extracurricular treasurer. Funds for class trips, athletics, social functions, club activities, etc. are maintained in building level accounts managed by the principals and ECA treasurers. These accounts are subject to State Board of Accounts audit reviews and audits, and Diane works with building level treasurers promoting accounting best practices, assistance with reporting requirements, and submission of Gateway ECA risk assessment reports. In your board packet this evening, you will see account balances in our extracurricular funds across the district, and I believe at May 31st, those balances were in excess of $2.2 million. Diane Hain, Kelly Stout, Kathy Hartle, and Brandy Woofley work with Cindy and I to ensure the accuracy of the financial records of the school corporation. Indiana schools follow a prescribed accounting system and chart of accounts established by the Indiana State Board of Accounts. Schools use the cash basis of accounting, recognizing revenue and expenses when money is actually exchanged, and a fund accounting system. A system for recording resources whose use has been limited by the donor, grant authority, governing agency, other individuals or organizations, or by law. Fund accounting emphasizes accountability rather than profitability and is used by nonprofits and governmental entities. Under this method of accounting, a fund consists of a self-balancing set of accounts as evidenced by our monthly financial report in tonight's board packet. Excluding transfers between funds, the district receipts and disbursements exceeded $200 million in 2021, of which approximately $130 million was used for salaries and benefits of school corporation staff. This slide lists the major funds of the corporation. As discussed during our budget presentations for 2023, the Education Operations Debt Service Operating Referendum and Rainy Day Funds are the tax-supported funds of the district. As you know, the primary operating funds, though, of the district are really the Education and Operations Fund. The Education Fund provides for all instructional programming of the district, including elementary, middle, and high school programs, along with special education, CTE, gifted and talented, counseling programs, etc. The budget for that fund is currently just over $103 million. The operating fund provides for the school corporation overhead costs, including the capital projects plan, our transportation system, the bus replacement plan costs, utilities, custodial maintenance costs, and the operations budget currently is just at under $35 million. The debt service fund facilitates the repayment of all Department of Local Government Finance approved debt. The operating referendum fund supports our SPO program, provides additional support for teachers, counselors, nurses, behavior interventionists, and subsidizes the transportation budget by covering fuel costs. Those now are in excess of $1 million annually. And finally, the Rainy Day Fund, which is really the corporation's savings account. You'll see that also included in the budget. Other funds that are often discussed are school lunch and textbook rental. We also manage over 75 state, local, and federal grants. the largest of which right now is ESSER 3 at just over $30 million. We often present information to the Board of School Trustees, and that's clearly shown in your vote for packet this evening. Tonight's public hearing on the 23 budget is the second step in adoption of budgets for next year. On October 10th, we will ask the board to adopt all required documents for submission to the Department of Local Government Finance for 2023 budgets. As we discussed earlier this evening, each month our office submits the accounts payable docket, the monthly financial report, the budget status report, and the encumbrance report for board review. Cindy and I meet with the board's finance committee, a committee comprised of 3 board members and Superintendent Hayworth each month. The finance committee meets Thursday prior to the board meeting when the accounts payable docket is to be presented. The finance committee meeting is advertised and open to the public. Committee members review the detailed accounts payable docket and pull claims for further review and discussion. It's important to note that schools are only required to hold one finance committee meeting a year for the sole purpose of reviewing investment activity. Our board, in an effort to promote transparency, has well exceeded that requirement. Schools are required to provide multiple reports to other state agencies and departments throughout the year. As you can see on this slide, we report to the Indiana Department of Education, the Indiana Department of Local Government Finance, the Indiana State Board of Accounts, the IRB Board, etc. Most of our reporting is done through Indiana's public transparency portal, Gateway. The State Board of Accounts requires monthly engagement uploads via Gateway. These uploads include our monthly financial statement, bank reconciliations, vendor payment histories, etc. Each July, the State Board of Accounts requires submission of the annual financial report, what we refer to as the AFR. The AFR is the fiscal year July to June report and becomes the basis for the State Board of Accounts audited financial statements of the district. The Indiana Department of Education requires submission of the Form 9. The Form 9 is completed for June 30th and December 31st. Financial data submitted via the Form 9 is on the DOE website and is used by the DOE to determine compliance with spending thresholds established by the state legislature. For instance, legislation now requires that schools spend 45% of basic grant funding on direct classroom instruction. New account codes allow for that computation, and we do meet that threshold. The DOE also monitors the 15% transfer limitation from the education fund to the operations fund through the Form 9. As these measurements become more specific, the state routinely changes the chart of accounts to address more areas of compliance. We are actively engaged in monitoring and reacting to these reporting changes and challenges. As another function of the Form 9, we now are required to upload all payroll, and expenditure detail every 6 months through the Form 9 transparency portal. The Department of Local Government Finance requires publication each year of a calendar year financial report. This report appears in the local newspaper each August and shows budget to actual budget data for the tax-supported funds, personnel data, rates of pay by employee type, number of employees, vendor payment information, enrollment data, and assessed value and tax rate comparisons. The IRB Board, the Indiana Education Employment Relations Board, requires submission of a detailed report of our teacher contract settlement parameters, and we work with HR to put together that wage and benefit financial data. This report is also uploaded through Gateway. And finally, the school corporation annually certifies a complete list of all corporation debt through Gateway. This submission includes all outstanding bond issues, lease rental arrangements with building corporations, and energy savings projects. Several years ago, the district formed a bond steering committee comprised of board members, community representatives, and members of the administrative team. We provide the committee with a periodic review of our debt financings. We work closely with Baker Tilly Municipal Financial Advisors and Ice Miller Bond Counsel to provide the required bond disclosure documents for review by Standard & Poor's, our bond rating agency. The corporation's A rating is consistent with most school districts across the state of Indiana. These ratings are based on school financial data, as well as county and regional economic and demographic indicators. We've listed some other functions on this slide. We assist HR with contract and labor negotiations, process corporation-provided benefits such as the sick and years of service buy-downs, and annuity matches. We provide financial forecasts to the administrative team and board for strategic planning. We perform internal auditing functions and are responsible for the biannual financial and compliance audits performed by the State Board of Accounts. As we look at the strategic plan goal of achieving and maintaining a 10% cash balance in our operating funds, it's important to look at where we've been. Prior to 2020, the last year we saw an increase in the year-end cash balance was 2016. In 2017, the district's expenditures from our operating funds exceeded revenue by $4.4 million, followed by a $6.1 million deficit in 2018. This trend continued into 2019, and as you'll recall, that projected decline led to the operating referendum that was approved in late 2019 for funding in 2020. The operating referendum's impact on the overall financial stability of the corporation is obvious, as those funds used in connection with the implementation of the strategic plan that led to the closure of 3 elementary schools as well as McLean Alternative School has led to annual increases in year-end cash balances since 2020. Although too early to state this evening, we are projecting another increase at the end of 2022. We obviously can't ignore the effect that COVID had on district finances. Shutdowns led to one-time savings in several areas, including utilities, supplies, substitute salaries, overtime, maintenance, etc. These savings, coupled with the sale of the previous administration building, were primarily responsible for the cash balance increase from 2019 to 2020. The strategic use of bond funds and now ESSER dollars continues to support our financial goals as we address learning loss, we address the attraction and retention of students and staff, and we ultimately work on right-sizing the district to balance revenues and expenditures. Life beyond ESSER and the operating referendum continue to be our focus now, and although much work has been done, there is still more to do. This slide shows a few of the resource management goals of the district. As Dr. Valetevich discussed last month, we continue to focus on these goals as an administrative team. Our cash reserves have increased substantially from 2019, and our end-of-year cash balances now exceed 10% of our operating budget. However, it's important to remember that those increases were supported to some extent with one-time money. Now we are working on long-range cash forecasting out beyond the end of ESSER and the operating referendum to make sure that we maintain our 10% reserve into the future. These projections include enrollment and funding estimates, salary projections, inflationary increases for utilities, fuel cost assumptions, etc. This slide was shown a few years ago and continues to be relevant today. As our largest operating fund, the Education Fund controls all educational programming. The legislature directly controls the funding, and revenue is driven by student enrollment. We will continue to concentrate on retention of students and resizing while transitioning from reliance on ESSER dollars for VCSC and other programs. We will continue to strategically use GO bond funds and ESSER to improve facilities to reduce ongoing maintenance costs. Staff resizing efforts will also continue for staff assigned to the operations fund. Debt service, we will continue to propose the use of GO bond funds to support building improvements, technology upgrades, and the acquisition of equipment and to fill the gap caused by circuit breaker tax cap losses, while maintaining a very consistent tax rate. We will continue to use referendum funds to support teacher salaries, SPOs, school safety, counseling, nursing, and other programs, and provide a transportation subsidy by maintaining a consistent tax rate of 16.22 cents as was approved by the voters of Vigo County in 2019. And we will continue to accumulate funds in the rainy day fund in preparation for the end of ESSER and the operating referendum. We will also continue the strategic use of ESSER funds, focusing now on building improvements allowed under the provisions of ESSER and student learning loss initiatives. With that, I'd like to again say thank you for the opportunity to share with you this evening. We are all committed to providing the board and administrative team with accurate financial information in a timely manner and keeping the board and administration engaged and aware of the financial position of the corporation. Your focus on fiscal matters is important to us, and we look forward to working with you to further the overall success of the Vigo County School Corporation. With that, we'd be happy to answer any questions.
I have a question that's more of a comment. I want to go back, it's on slide 14, you talk about our cash balance and the referendum and things like that, and I just want to point out that those numbers where the cash balance was increasing are still less than the referendum. So while work has been done, it isn't
Much more to do.
And with that, the operating referendum will expire, and for those numbers to not turn negative again, that number has to be bigger than the operating referendum when it expires. Otherwise, those numbers go back to negative.
Yes, sir.
And while I will be on board at that time when it expires, I would like to see the increase be greater than the operating referendum before it expires, so that way the work was done and completed.
And that is our goal, sir, and that is why also that as we build rainy day funds, we have that cushion to use as we continue to resize.
Thank you. Very, very well put together presentation. Thank you.
As always. So I have to say, I mean, like, in addition to what you just said, Mr. Irwin, what we've been able to accomplish in the past few years, we've cut like $5 million of annual spending already since the operating referendum. Is that right?
That's probably pretty close. And one thing we have to keep in mind too is there are additional initiatives that have been started in regard to learning loss and those types of programs. We did without a remediation program for several years. And through the use of ESSER, we re-upped the remediation program, had a very significant remediation program funded through ESSER. So that's part of the learning loss initiative. And those are things that now we have to learn how those fit in the overall budget as we move forward. Because those were initiated again through the use of ESSER money.
Right. I just wanted to highlight the work that's been done as far as austerity
Quite a
goes
bit.
throughout the corporation. So, thank you.
And obviously, things like fuel, we have no control over those. The increase in fuel costs obviously is very unusual.
If you figure out how to control diesel prices, let me know.
Yeah. We're working with transportation to make sure we use only as much as we need.
You have a little bit more buying power than I do.
Just a little.
With all the responsibilities of the business office, do you feel like you have an adequate amount of staff?
There are days yes and there are days no.
All right.
We have a small staff, but we have a mighty staff. And we have a lot of experience in our midst. And a lot of our people came up through the school ranks, worked their way. Cindy was an extracurricular treasurer, went back to school, got her accounting degree, came back up through, moved on, so that's great. I mean, we have a lot of great people in our department. We always could use more, but obviously, we're just like everybody else. We're under that operations fund,
Right.
and that operations fund budget is tight. So I work with Mr. Cox quite a bit. We're looking at both of our offices combined and jointly, and a lot of our roles overlap, and we work quite a bit with that department, so it's a good team.
I appreciate the cross-training as well, because that becomes so key when
We found that out the hard way
things
during
happen,
COVID.
right? Yeah.
During COVID, we wouldn't let anybody go into the business office with Marcy, which on a paid week, and they were kind of off limits, and we staggered around that because, if we miss a pay, we affect over 2,000 people. And so we can't do that.
I would ju-
Sorry, one last thing. All of the different state government agencies who are looking over our shoulders at what happens here, how much duplication of effort do you think is involved in fulfilling all those things for
There's
state
probably
government?
quite a bit, because the state agencies normally don't talk to each other. So we find that but a lot of it, once we complete it for one department, we have it to report to another, but they all want it right now in different formats. So sometimes it's cumbersome, and then you have HR that does a lot of similar reporting on the number of staff and along with payroll and job codes, and we're refining all of that as we go and trying to do it all right and react to all the changes that the state has put out.
Wouldn't it be lovely if state government maybe did a little bit of that?
It'd be nice if we went 6
Yes.
months with no change to the accounting system, or the count codes.
Can you, to that end, Donna, one, just proud of your team, you, the work that you do every day for students. Many times that's not seen directly by people in the business office, but it is the pump that makes us go. But you just mentioned the accounting codes. How many times in the last 40 years have those codes been changed?
The account codes, a year and a half ago, we got notice the week before payroll that all the accounting codes for payroll were changing to monitor that 45% rule. That came out at the end of June for the first pay in July. So we had basically, I think it was 3 or 4 days, Marcy, to change all the account codes. And then Mr. Cox had to change, his office changed all the contracts, teacher contracts, with all those account codes. The account codes then, they changed them again for this 6-month reporting. And now in January, they are changing them again and adding the account numbers now. If you're not familiar with our account numbers, they are 24 digits long. So an account number really represents a sentence that says the year, the fund, whatever fund number it is, the funds are numbered, the program, the functionality of the expenditure, the object, or like if it's supplies, salaries, and then the building location, because we now report for under ESSA guidelines by building, so that our data for a building can be compared to Carmel's data for a building. All of that, now we're adding 2 more digits on the end of the account number that represents a subcategory code, which means whether or not you are providing direct classroom instruction or a supporting role. So they're 24 digits now, and they're going to be 26 here in a few days, few months.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mrs. Wilson, thank you.
Thank
I
you.
was in awe of what you do. Thank you. Next on our agenda is the policy update for the following policies. Is this the policy committee going to present on this?
Yeah, so, Madam President, members of the board, the administration, and the policy committee recommends the following policies be moved forward in the adoption process. This action does not approve the policy, but rather triggers discussion with staff and needed parties. Policies are as follows. Policy 554040, which deals with school and government agencies. Simply what that does is when law enforcement or DCES enters the building to communicate with our students, it sets out the policy for what our employees would need to do in that situation. Next is 4213.01. That's staff and student relations. This policy establishes the expectations for proper conduct between students and staff. Next is 8305, that's information security. That policy establishes the expectations regarding our corporation data secure. And finally, 8606 and that's bus driver and cell phone use policy. Again, this would just be moving this forward.
If we can have a motion and a second to approve, to move forward with this, we can open for discussion if needed.
Move approval of the policies as presented.
Well, we're doing this just for the second reading.
For the second reading, excuse me.
Yes.
Approval for the second
Yes.
reading.
Yes.
Excuse me.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second to move these policies forward for a second reading. This is not approval just yet. Are there any questions or comments from the board?
Clarification, are we moving it forward for the third reading, or this is the second?
This is the second reading tonight,
Yes.
coming out of the committee meeting. That's our first reading. Tonight is the second reading. This action tonight actually then gives us the ability to go talk to our employee groups and others that these policies might affect in regards to these changes. In fact, 2 of these are changes to our new policy book that we just approved. That demonstrates how quick policies can change, and 2 would be brand new to the policy book.
Are all 4 of these, are all 4 of these Neola policies as well?
Yeah, all 4 are recommended by Neola.
I think it emphasizes the advantage of having Neola to define and update our policies as needed. Make sure we're current with law, best practice.
Yes, Neola is a nice guidelines because before we had Neola, we spent hours and hours and hours on perhaps one policy, the wording to make changes or updates was definitely very time consuming.
Well, I know it wasn't that long ago the student handbook used the term beeper. So it was all due to be updated, I'm sure, because that was before my time.
See students in the room looking like more.
I just also want to point out that the policy committee is another public committee, and we send out public hearing notices for that, and if you want to be there to listen, you can be.
Thank you. We do have a motion and a second to move these policies forward for the third reading. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, and abstain. Thank you. Next, we have comments, correspondence, and information. We have first on the list, calls for citizen comments. I do have a paper filled out by Jeremiah Minke. He would like to discuss the Weaver County Student Extracurricular Activity Achievement Recognition.
Are we doing 5 minutes or 3?
I don't need that long.
I'm the timekeeper, I have to know.
We can do 5 since he's the only one that has signed up at this moment.
Okay, all right, 5 minutes, there you go.
You don't have to use all of it.
So thank you for giving me a little time to speak. The reason why I came up here is this summer we had there's about 8 kids that are members of Vigo County Schools. I'll say all their names just so everybody can know. I know we're all busy, it's kind of hard to keep up with everything, right? But there were 8 kids this summer that participated in a summer track and field. It's called Speed U. Actually, I believe the coach, he coaches out here at middle school. So there's 23 members on the team, and 8 of those students, I'll say their names in a minute, qualified for nationals. So they participated in Sacramento, California. I just thought that was kind of a big deal. I also know that, well, I came up here a little while back, and I'm not throwing anybody under the bus. Like I said, I know we're all busy. There's a lot of things to do, but I came up here and I talked with, it was Miss Stuckey, I believe, and it was Miss McClendon. Just to let them know, I thought one of the parents from the team had sent stuff to the Vigo County newspaper, just to the Tribune Star, just to put that out there. It's a pretty big deal. We had one kid, I'll name him off in a minute, that actually he placed 6th. He's All-American. He goes to Terre Haute South, and I just think that's a pretty big achievement. The reason why I came up here, I just wanted everyone to know, since that hasn't been in the paper, I thought it'd be awesome if the Vigo County School Corporation, well maybe, hey, hey, Tribune Star, let's put them in the paper. It just makes us look a little better, I think, a little more together, right? So I just want to read off and say what these kids participated in. There was a lady in Linton, or excuse me, Farmersburg, and there's one in Linton. They both had articles in our paper, and our kids didn't. So they put in a lot of work. It took a lot of effort, and I think it's something positive to put out there, and maybe we get more people to get in activities like this. And our kids need stuff to do to stay out of trouble. Man, there's a lot of avenues to get in trouble. But I just want to read off the kids. I just wanted them to get some recognition because I watched them work hard all summer, and I think it's pretty amazing. So Ethan Adu, he's a junior at Terre Haute South. He qualified and competed in 400 meters, 800 meters, and the 1500 meters. He placed 6th overall in the 17 and 18 1500 meters, and he was named the USATF All-American. So that's pretty awesome. Then we had Zenaria White, who was a 7th grader at Sarah Scott. She qualified and competed in the 100 and 200 meters, and she earned a top 20 spot. She placed 14th overall in the 200 meters at the Nationals. We also had, the rest of the people didn't necessarily place, but they all did well, they all made it. Jaslyn Kelly is a 7th grader at Sarah Scott. She qualified and competed in the 400 meters. Zanila Robertson, a 7th grader at Sarah Scott, qualified and competed in the 100 and 200 meters. Let's see. DeAndre Cooley, a 3rd grader. Well, I'm sorry, some of these kids are at St. Pat's. I'll put them at the end. No offense, man. Gotta keep it honest. Okay, right. So we have Elsie Adu, is actually Ethan Adu's sister. She's an 8th grader at St. Patrick's. She qualified and competed in the 100 meters, 200 meters, and 400 meters. Tara Cooley, she's a junior at Terre Haute South. She qualified and competed in the 200 meters. Her brother DeAndre Cooley, a 3rd grader at St. Patrick's, qualified and competed in the 100 and 200 meters. Tajon Cooley, a 2nd grader at St. Patrick's, qualified and competed in the 100 meters and 200 meters. And my son, Kendrick Meeky, a 2nd grader at Fuquay Elementary, qualified and competed in the 100 and 400 meters. I just thought that was a huge accomplishment, and I just wanted you guys to know. And I think to keep kids, involved and doing things positive, maybe like the recognition from the people that are sitting in higher seats, that's a pretty big deal when you're a kid, you know what I mean? I did talk to them. I know that, let's see, Miss Stuckey, she did send out an email to all the principals, but, sending out an email, you may not see those all the time. That's not the easiest thing to do to recognize everybody. So that's all I wanted to come up here and say, and yeah, I just wanted you guys to know.
Thank you very much. Mr. Menke, I am going to address that because having been in this school corporation for like 50 years plus, it has always been heartbreaking when students do so well and accomplish in whatever field it is, and the recognition is not there. And our kids do things every week that are fantastic, and it just, I guess it's an overload, but we do need to recognize them. We try to, but boy, to keep up with all they do is tricky. So I appreciate you bringing that to our attention.
And I have to believe that Coach Pete Jones is smiling down as the founder of the Terre Haute Track Club. He's somebody I greatly admired growing up.
Incredible man.
Are there any other comments on this? We'll move to information from Superintendent Hayworth and board members.
So per Indiana English Learner Guidelines, all new student enrollees in kindergarten or from another state with a language other than English listed on their home language survey are assessed for English proficiency. This fall, 82 new students were assessed and 58 qualified for EL services. We bring that to your attention because in our corporation, there are 210 students that are identified as limited English proficient. And sometimes that goes overlooked, but the testing and time to try to bring the needed resources for those students is vitally important. So wanted to bring that to everyone's attention. Sometimes that work gets overlooked. The other is just a small thing. We have no furries in our school district. I think that rumor is going around, and so just to let everyone know, we checked with our principals, and no furries to be accounted for in the Vigo County School Corporation.
I'd just like to say that it's just been a busy week in Vigo County. We had Wabashiki Days by Riverscape that kids were involved in, and some of the West Vigo students, I think, mentioned earlier. And there was a hot air balloon show at the airport, and there was a childhood early learning day at the library, I believe, and the symphony. And there are things going on every single week in Vigo County, but the schools then have all their activities, and our students explained that today with all the homecoming events coming up. So there is no reason to be bored in Vigo County.
You know, Stacy, I had something I wanted to make sure that we all knew about. In line with what Jeremiah said, things slip through the cracks. Well, our Terre Haute South Vigo band has been knocking it out of the park.
Yes, I have.
3 competitions in a row, everybody.
Yeah.
They are bringing home first.
Yeah.
I mean, all the categories, they're bringing home first place, competing against all these big schools in the Indy area. And I know, like Jackie said, there's so many great things, but I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew what these kids were doing. I had a lot of the kids in the band that, were neighbors of mine over the years, so it's easier for me to kind of keep track of what's going on with the band, because I know all the people with band and choir work hard at all of our schools. But anyway, that last competition was Saturday, and I'm so glad Dr. Rochendale is still here so that we can say, way to go down there on the south side. I think we should give him a round of applause. 3 weeks in a row.
I believe each of our student leader groups had snuck in there a little bit that they are improving or having more robust social media presence. And I see that on Facebook, I see that on Instagram. I'm not all proficient in TikTok, but I'm going to check that out. But I encourage you to check those out. I mean, I think just that little congratulations, a little, just that little bit of congratulatory statements out there that we can give to our students and our teachers and adult volunteers that are, pushing these kids forward as well appreciated. And it is out there, slow and mighty, but it is out there, and I just commend the students definitely producing more robust social media presence out there. I do see it, so thank you for that.
And props to the students who stuck out the entire meeting. It's the most entertaining thing in the world.
If I had the ability, I would give you extra credit.
Lastly, do we have any other committee reports from board members? I think we addressed some of that during the meeting, but do we have anything we have missed?
We have ISBA meetings coming up Monday and Tuesday, and the Polaris Awards at
Monday evening.
Monday evening.
Well, I appreciate everyone coming this evening and staying involved. Our future meeting will be Monday, October 10th, 6:00 p.m. here at the administration building. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.